Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Voyager class Autobot Springer. This has actually been a figure of which I've been pretty excited to take a look at over on the channel. I never reviewed the original Siege version, so this is a great second opportunity not only for me, but for those of you who missed out on that original run. Now as we take a look here at the box art, considering that this is an Amazon exclusive, we do get the closed cardboard box, but the artwork is immaculate. This looks so cool. We've got Springer sporting what I believe to be his original G1 toy colours, and we've also got him transforming from the helicopter into the robot mode, which creates for a pretty sick looking image. As we take a look here at the side, we get some of the Autobots from Legacy, and here at the back some of the product shots showcasing that he is in fact a triple changer, which is pretty surprising considering that he's only a Voyager, and if the most recent leader Blitzwing is anything to go by, I'm almost certain that they absolutely tried their hardest to package this guy as a leader. But nevertheless, here on this side we do get the Decepticons, so let's crack Springer out of the packaging and see how awesome this figure actually is. And here we have the Legacy Springer, and overall the figure has turned out great. This is such an awesome mould, although I have to be honest and say, I find the colour scheme to leave a lot to be desired. Whilst it may have looked pretty cool on the original 80s G1 toy, I don't think it's translated all that well here into our new Legacy rendition, but we'll be sure to touch base with that in just a second. He actually comes with quite a substantial amount of accessories, so to start off firstly, we do get this massive blaster which is formed out of two distinctive weapons. So as we just attach those, you can see some decent sculpt work here for this one, whereas the other is slightly more simplistic in terms of design, and alternatively you can store them into any of the MechTech ports that we've got situated here at the back. I actually really like combining the swords into the adapter to create this almost spinning blade of death. I can just imagine this particular Wrecker Springer using this on the battlefield to churn up some of the Decepticons, or alternatively you can remove these here from the adapter piece, set this here off to the side or peg it into the back, and create the classic Generation 1 look with him dual wielding these swords, which just looks so cool. A really nicely done looking figure. Now as we take a look here at the actual details and articulation, surprisingly the mold has held up pretty nicely done. I believe he was originally released, I want to say in 2019 or 2018, and for the most part he feels just as great as he did way back then. Now the paintwork here for the head is really cool. I do like the darker shade of green that we've got for the crest piece in contrast to the lime green plastic, and we also do get a lighter shade of green used there for the faceplate. Sculpt wise, I think it looks awesome. The head is on a ball joint so it can rotate left to right, and we do get a minimal range of motion looking up and down. The shoulders have just merely been cast out of kind of this bland grey plastic, which I wish was painted a little nicer, but we do get some darker grey highlights here for the side, and surprisingly some minute red details, which I wasn't expecting them to apply at all. We do get a full rotation here at the shoulder, as well as a hinge joint out to the side, and you can see some of the nice lime green plastic for the biceps and certain components here of the forearms. And just check out how chock-a-block this guy is. There are barely any hollow spaces on him at all, which is really nice to see. We do get a rotation of the bicep, as well as a 90-degree bend there at the elbow, and finally for the arm also a rotation at the wrist. Now as we come here to the chest piece, this has got to be my favourite part about this repaint in general. I love this very bright and vibrant yellow. Reminds me of the Select's hubcap that we got released a few years ago, and I'm not too sure how well it's coming across on camera, but at least in person the Wrecker insignia has a super cool, almost reflective foil sheen to it, which makes me think that it's a sticker, but it is in fact a stamped on detail, and overall I just think the detailing on that looks really cool. As we come down here to the lower section, much like the head, we do get some differences in regards to some darker green highlights and the lime green plastic, which I think in all looks great. The hips can kick forwards that far, back to that far to an amazing range, as well as out to the sides. Full rotation here at the actual thigh itself. Sadly, at least here on my copy, the transformation joint does have a tendency to become very easily detached from the actual knee joint, so 9 times out of 10 you'll actually have to support it here at the back to move that knee joint. But as you guys can see, we do get a slightly past 90-degree range there, which is awesome, as well as a waist rotation. And then finally, as we come down here to the lower part of the leg, I do think this looks slightly bland, but has been spruced up with some darker grey highlights and some green here for the base, and the foot can pivot forwards and backwards, as well as rock side to side to a fantastic extent, although these are on pin joints, so it can be a little fiddly to actually get him balanced when on a slightly uneven surface, or just in general, to be honest. But overall, definitely a fantastic looking figure in terms of the moulding. I do just wish they could have been slightly more extravagant as far as their colour deco goes, and as you can see, backpack management wise, not looking too bad. at all. Now, comparison wise, here we have the Legacy Springer compared alongside the original Siege version, and without a shadow of a doubt, the original version is by far the more superior out of the two, as I just think the colours pop. They're a lot more visually interesting when in comparison to some of the stark grey bland pieces that we've got here on the Wreck and Rule collection. But mold wise, to go back to my earlier point, this is still a fantastic release, so if you missed out on this version, then this really is the perfect second opportunity in getting this guy into the collection. And just to give you guys a side-by-side perspective so you can see how they differ in terms of colour deco, once again a lot more interesting on the original Siege version, and especially as we come around here to the back, despite the battle damage maybe not being the nicest here on this version, it did definitely spruce up some of the details that we've got here for the back plate. And he does come with the exact same accessories as we saw first time round with the Siege release, the only difference being is that they have been cast out of different colours. So here with the Siege rendition it was blue, whereas on the Legacy version it is a darker grey gunmetal, and the same can also be said here with the blasters, so blue for Siege and grey for Legacy. Here he is alongside some of the other Wreck and Rule figures that I've already reviewed over on the channel, such as Bulkhead and Twin Twist, which I think is by far one of the coolest redecos that we've seen from this subline so far. Now when it comes down to transformation, truth be told there aren't that many mainline figures of which I struggle with, but Springer for some reason has always really confused me. There's just a lot of steps that go into both of his alt modes, and overall it can definitely become slightly overwhelming in some aspects, but I'll try my absolute best to give you guys a detailed tutorial. So to start things off, what I like to do is take the head and just rotate it so that the front is facing the back. We can then take these sections, extend those outwards, and this green piece, and then basically this section will port into the back of the hand, so just snap that there into place, come around to this side and rinse and repeat. So just hinge this section back until it does click there into place. We can detach the arms, so just pull these sections down, which then should also loosen up this entire chest piece. So now what we can do is, I want to say, bring this section forwards and then fold these out. Now at least here on my copy, these really do have a tendency to become very easily detached. As you can see, the plastic doesn't look the greatest on these tiny nubs, so I would definitely recommend to watch out for these. I'm not even too sure that I'd be able to stiffen these up with some floor polish, as the actual nubs themselves are barely existent. As you can see, just by rotating them, they continuously want to become detached. But what you're going to want to do is dip the head into this piece here, and then just snap this component over the top, and then snap this here on the underside of the cockpit. And as you can see, these just really do not want to stay fixed in at all, so pop this one out as well, and then just realign this up if it does become detached. 9 times out of 10 we'll have to peg them back in later on. Now the arms, I would recommend just to pull them up and get them out of the way. As we come around here to the legs, you are going to want to pull this section out, flip out the fin pieces, snap that there back into place, and do the same here for this side, so snap that in there. The feet will come up and over, and then if my memory serves me correctly, this section will come around, snap into place, and do the same here for this side. And then you can combine the two halves on these rather fragile tabs. These really aren't made out of the thickest plastic, so do be a little careful when detaching those later on, but just clip those there together. And now what we can do is just shift this here backwards, and as you can see, this piece will actually lock into this grey section, so just ensure that's all tabbed in. And there are in fact some tiny cutouts here on these sections which the back of the heel spurs should slide into, so just do the same here for this side. Take the front pelvic plate and the top section and just snap those there into place. They will actually click very securely. And then what we can do here for the arms is extend this joint up. Now what you'll want to do is shoot this tab into a slot inside here, and then at the same time align this tab up with the slot here on the side of the arm. So just extend that all the way up, snap that into place, and click that there at the top. Do the same here for this side, shoot that up, snap that section in like so, and then finally this piece will come up and over, and we'll tab in to the back, and there we have Springer fully transformed up into his Cybertronian vehicle mode, and overall not looking too bad. For a triple changer, this is actually one of the cleanest looking Voyagers that I think we've ever seen. It was such a fantastic mold. I'm really glad that collectors have been given a second opportunity in owning this mold, as it's definitely one of the hidden gems from the War for Cybertron line in my opinion. Now vehicle mode wise, it comes together very nicely. You can see the detail for the wheels is on point. Surprisingly, the actual hubcaps are grey plastic, and it is the tyres that have been painted out of black, but still does the job. We do get that Wrecker logo here at the front, some nice transparent blue detail here for the cockpit, and considering that this was inspired by the Siege toy line, there is actually some cool cybernetic detailing actually being housed underneath. Some nice sculptwork here for the top, the rear fin pieces, which I think look great, and overall definitely a pretty solid looking vehicle mode. Comparison wise, here we have it yet again compared alongside the original Siege version, and even here in Alt mode I just think this one takes the cake. It's such a cool deco on an amazing mold, but the Legacy one doesn't look too bad, and if you do actually tab this pelvic plate into this top section, he should hopefully be able to roll along the ground with barely any clearance issues. There is literally a tiny amount of space between this section and where the wheels actually meet the ground, so you will definitely have to ensure that you've transformed him almost perfectly to get all 4 wheels rolling along the ground. Now, weapon wise, we can take the 2 blasters, peg them into one another, and there is a tiny slot just above the handle which will peg into some tabs here on the side, and then we can bring the propeller adapter in and basically just snap this here into the MechTech port, peg this into the top of the vehicle mode, and if you actually have the vehicle stationary, it doesn't look too bad. It does look like one massive Cybertronian cannon, but as you begin to move this around, considering this is free-flowing, it will more than likely spin out of control. So definitely never my favourite form of weapon storage, but it is something that you can do if you just wish to keep him in one piece. And finally, transformation from the vehicle mode into the helicopter mode. Now, the instructions actually make this out to be so much more complex than it actually is, and to be fair, it's really just the rear of the vehicle which transforms to get it into this mode. So to start things off, you will want to detach this top canopy. We can then take the arms and just hinge these out to the sides to allow for some clearance later on. Now, you will want to flip here to the underside and detach these tabs from one another, which can be easier said than done. So just remove those like so, and then you'll want to basically pull these sections back, so return them to how they were in robot mode, just like this. Now you'll want to rotate here at the thigh and do the same here to the other one, just so that the front is facing the back, and what will happen is the foot will swing around. Do the same here for this side, and the panel will actually detach and come out to the side. Now, we won't flip it all the way around just yet, we'll save that for just a second. This will then allow for enough clearance for this piece to spin around, and do the same here for this side. And now what you'll want to do, and probably some of the coolest engineering I've seen on a Voyager, is drop the hips down, so they will detach and swing down. Do the same here for this side. So just bring those hips together. And now what we can do is combine here at the rear of what will become the helicopter, snap all this into place, and then combine the 2 thin pieces together. And then here for the legs, these will just swing around just like this, and will actually click into place. Now, as we come here to the arms, you'll want to detach the hands from these sections, and then take this green piece, flip this out, and what will happen here is it will actually extend away from the forearm, which will allow us to rotate it around, and we can just snap that there into place and return it back to its original position. Now, as we come around here to the arms, you are going to want to detach this. There is a brand new tab which is created by us actually spinning this section out, which is this one. This is going to tab into this slot, and then here at the top, this will latch into a tab in the inside of this section. So just dip this down. Basically, once you get this tab aligned up, the rest should be pretty simple. So just click that in there, come around here to this side, and rinse and repeat. So bring this down, fold this section out, extend away from the forearm, and rotate outwards. Snap that back into place. Come up here to the top, and those green pieces are definitely going to be the death of me. Snap that in, then snap that into place, and much like we would for vehicle mode, take this here, shift it back until it does also click nice and securely into place. Just snap that in there. We can bring back in some of the accessories. Noticeably would be the propeller adapter and the 2 swords. Snap these here into place, and then just prop this in the center, and here we have Springer fully transformed up into his 3rd and final alt mode, that being the helicopter. And I think this is one of my favorites. This here looks really cool. Now, we do get the propeller blade, which is formed out of the swords, which I think is just genius. It works incredibly effectively, and as I mentioned previously, this really can spin to a terrific extent. You can see that is just so awesome. We do get these new wing pieces, which is formed out of the side of the arms, which I think look great, and the engineering on the legs is just mind-blowing. I really love how these extend, compress, and do become this almost rear rotor blade. That is super cool, and surprisingly he can actually roll along the ground in this mode as well. So definitely a very nicely done looking figure. And then as far as the weapons are concerned, you can peg them into the MechTech ports here on the front, or the instructions do recommend us tabbing them here into the sides, so I guess he can take down some Decepticons when in flight. And finally, for comparison yet again, we have the original Siege version of Springer, just so you guys can see how they shape up here in the helicopter mode. So exactly the same in terms of molding, it's just the color decos of which differ for the both of them. And so, some final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Voyager class Springer. The mold is just terrific. I think it's by far one of the best Voyagers that we've seen released for the Generations line in a very long time. It was awesome in Siege, and it's awesome to see it yet again re-released here for the Legacy toy line. I don't really like the colour scheme, that's just a personal preference on my behalf. Some of you guys may really dig what Hasbro have done with this guy, but I do just think in person it looks slightly bland, especially where the grey plastic is concerned, and it's nowhere near as cool looking as some of the Fossilizer repaints and even the Diaclone version of Twin Twist that we saw previously released. Robot mode looks fantastic, I really can't fault it. There doesn't appear to be that much degradation in terms of the quality of the mold. He holds up very nicely when in comparison to the original release. It's great to see them include all of the same weapons for a very similar price point to what we saw first time round for Springer. Transformation is very involved and complex, at least that's what I think. I do think he's one of the more complex Voyagers. It results in a very cool looking car mode, and then an equally as cool looking helicopter mode. I do have some qualms in regards to a few joints, such as those green panels which are situated on the base of both of the alt modes. They do have a tendency to become very easily detached, at least on my copy, so I would have liked to have seen perhaps pins shot through those, or maybe if they had just basically enhanced the plastic. It does appear as if though the plastic is a little too flimsy and rubbery on those, but other than that, a really nicely done figure. For those who missed out on the original Springer, then this is a great second opportunity in picking this guy up, but if you already own that version, I really don't think the colour deco just in itself warrants double dipping on this mould. I really would like to know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and as always I thank you all so much for watching. Until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.